I'm directing all schools in Virginia to remain closed at least through the end of this academic year.
As intense flames still scorch
The pandemic has hit its 1-year mark, and plenty of people are still suffering physically and mentally due to the coronavirus. With the lack of social support, people have struggled to stay content in their everyday lives. Being at home has given people a lot of free time, though, and even inspiring some to adopt a new friend. We introduce you to families surviving in these uncertain times with a loyal companion in their home.
The first heartwarming story we will hear will be from Michelle Brockington Lawson and the story of how she found her quarantine dog, Deacon.
My name is Michelle Brockington Lawson, and during quarantine, we got a dog named Deacon, who is a miniature schnauzer mixed with a poodle that they call a schnoodle. By getting Deacon during quarantine, it made me feel very happy because having a dog previously before Deacon for 18 and a half years and then going a year without any companionship of, a pet. So having him, it just made me very happy. A special memory that I have with Deacon is that we've had him roughly about a month now. So the first time we took him over to my parents' house, they have this big backyard, and we let him run wild, and he just looked like a little kid and just running around, just having so much fun, like he was happy that he had a new home. The hardest part during quarantine was looking for a pet because, we started looking for one and then everyone went into quarantine. So the prices of pets went up tremendously, probably triple the price of what it would be prior to quarantine. So it made it very difficult trying to find a dog. We were following every website, looking at every shelter, reaching out to anyone that had a dog that was having puppies. It took us almost a year and about 4 months before we could find another dog. And so thankfully we found Deacon. Because we had a dog for 18 and a half years, during quarantine, to be without a puppy or a dog, just that pet companionship, it made it really hard because this was new for everyone. This was the first time ever that we were basically forced to stay at home and just without that companionship. It just made it hard, and it made it a little lonely to not have, that dog that you have to feed and walk and just someone following you around, just missing the cuddles and everything. So I think that's probably the hardest part without having a dog during quarantine. Some of the funny things that Deacon does is he has this snake squeaky toy, and we can throw it up and down the steps. He will run up and down the steps. He'll grab the thing to where it looks like he's holding the snake, and then he just starts shaking his head around like he's tackling it, holding it, and just so that he can hear it squeak. And then he has this thing with pulling my hair. I don't know why, but he'll try to pull my hair and then just running up and down the steps, and he tries to race everyone. And he's just a very fun, energetic puppy. So we're very glad that we have him now. One thing I can say is that by us finding Deacon, I feel like he completed our family because we all love him and we all take care of him equally. And he just brings us so much joy just having him here with us. And he always goes around and checks everybody's room. He follows everybody around, and he's just a very fun, loving dog. And this is exactly what we need, especially with the year that we had with the quarantine. So we're glad that Deacon is a part of our family.
Now we meet Alexandra Huerta and her 2 dogs, Cha-Cha and Jitterbug. This family has transitioned from a busy lifestyle to a stay-at-home quarantine, and we learn how the love of dogs has helped their experience during the pandemic.
We adopted the dogs 3 years ago from a site that my daughter and son found at the Petco store. And when we met them, we immediately fell in love and knew that they were the perfect addition to our family. So after not much debate, we adopted them and brought them home. Over the pandemic, I've noticed that our dogs have become even more comforting than when we first had them. They've always been very attentive to all of us, but I've noticed that if I'm having a bad day or maybe I'm not or maybe I am upset about something, then they come right up to me and kind of reach out to me and put their paws on my leg, and it just kind of, kind of changes the whole atmosphere around to make me feel happier. One of the things I have to admit to is that I was very strong about our animals not being on furniture, not being on beds, but over the pandemic, I think I've become a little too lenient because they now sleep with my daughter. They get on our couches, and I guess it's all part of comforting them like they comfort us. But I will say there's a lot more dog hair on furniture than has been before. Jitterbug, she is like so polite. She's our polite dog. She will sit there next to the table, which I know a lot of people get pretty annoyed with their dogs being there because they might be begging for food. But she sits there nice, prim and proper, just waiting, looking around, seeing if you're dropping something. And even though you don't, she won't bark, she won't yipe, she won't yell, she won't bug you, but she's just there waiting, hoping that you're going to drop something to her. So don't tell, but I might have dropped a thing or two. One of the things I've learned to love so much about these dogs is, even though when we adopted them because my daughter was missing our dog that passed away, my husband was sad, and even my son really wanted the dogs. I really wasn't a fan of getting them, but as a mom, you do what you have to do to make your family happy. But the one thing that's really warmed my heart over this past year is how much they've kind of grown to be like my best buds. I call them my daughters. And when my kids aren't here, my husband's not here, they're on me. They're on my lap. Yes, mine. The person who says I don't want them on furniture. They're on my lap. And they cuddle. And it's comforting. And even if it's a day where, like I said, I'm not feeling happy, they make me feel happy. I'm glad we got them. One thing I've been thinking about is there's times where I know I'm ready to go back to work, ready to get some distance from everyone, but I have to wonder what it's going to be like for the dogs, because Jitterbug and Cha-Cha, we've been there from the time they wake up, when they eat their meals, when they take their snacks, when they have to go to the restroom, to when we go back to work, they're going to have to kind of be in their crates. And I'm wondering to myself, how sad is that going to be for them? Is it going to be a feeling of abandonment? Or have we shown them enough love that they know we're coming back? But I think it's a real concern of mine.
In conclusion, quarantine has caused a wave of new experiences on life for everyone it has encountered, and these two lucky families have found their match of furry friend love.
Although these times are far from normal, that one loyal companion is all it takes to shed that loneliness that everyone feels.